I don't think Donald Trump wakes up giving one rat's ass about the American people. He cares about Donald Trump. His administration right now is just bending over backwards to try and get him the Nobel Peace Prize. I wish we had an American president that had the discipline and the intellectual capacity and the integrity of a Vladimir Putin, and think about the general well-being of the people you're responsible for. I honestly believe when Vladimir Putin wakes up in the morning, his one driving force is, what can I do to make the life of the Russian people better? I believe it because you take a look at how he behaves and what he does. He acts on it. He's stopped 5 wars. You know that, right? He stopped all 5 of them. All 5 of the wars. And the 6th one, the big one, is Russia, and he's going to stop that too. And God, if the Russians ever say, all right, we'll do the ceasefire if the Ukrainians do this, he's going to say, I've stopped all the wars in the world. I am the ultimate peacemaker. You must give me the Nobel Peace Prize. Forget the fact that I bombed Iran in violation of international law and that I worked with the Israelis to carry out a surprise attack against Iran. Forget that little fact. That's just, come on. 2 submarines moving to Russia? Not a big deal. He hasn't stopped any wars, not a single war. Every war he thinks he stopped is still festering. And if they stopped, it wasn't because of him. India and Pakistan didn't stop fighting because of Donald Trump. Cambodia and Thailand still are hooking and jabbing. The Cambodians might want to nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize, but the Thais aren't, because the Thais know the truth. There's still problems there. He talked about he sent a 3-man delegation to the Congo to try and cook up a deal between Congo and Rwanda, and they had to flee for their lives. Yeah, you stopped that war, didn't you, Donnie baby? He hasn't stopped a single war. And all he does is fuel wars. He sells weapons. The man's, he's not just a hypocrite. He's not just a liar. He's ignorant, purely ignorant. And it's all narcissist based. This is all about Donald Trump. And my God, you have a president of the United States that is going to take all this power and just focus it on making Donald Trump seem like a great guy. $60 million worth of food to Gaza, but nobody's thanked me. Nobody's thanked me at all. Why aren't you thanking me? Why aren't you making sure the food gets to the people who need it? Somebody should thank me. This is where we're at right now. When was the last time Vladimir Putin had to go on national TV and beg people to thank him for something? Never. I think when the president's warped little art of the deal mind, I'm putting them on India to put pressure on Russia, to let the Russians know we're serious. India's already said, pound sand, we're not doing this. China's already said the same thing. Brazil, I think, has said the same thing. I think the president's waking up to the fact that nobody's going to respond to this. Nobody cares. But in his mind, he has to put pressure on, or else Kov won't have any leverage when he meets with Putin. So this is what the president's doing. But this is fake. It's all fake. But this is Donald Trump we're talking about. He can put him on. He can take him off. This isn't Congress passing legislation. Congress already passed legislation that gave the president the ability to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And so the president now can put these on. He can take them off anytime he wants for whatever reason he wants. I feel that if there's going to be a deal, you're going to see the president, once there's a path to a ceasefire, then the president will do what needs to be done with the sanctions he's put on the nations that purchase Russian oil, because you can't have a deal unless you're willing to lift all sanctions, the Russian prerequisites. Got to lift all sanctions, and those include secondary sanctions. So, yes, Belarus is now a nuclear power in terms of capability. It's destabilizing. It's stabilizing in a perverse way for Russia and Belarus because they needed to do it. You can't have Belarus out there hanging on by itself, where you got Poland and the Baltic states threatening it, by making sure that people know that if you attack Belarus, you trigger not just Belarus, but Russia, the Union State, and their dual nuclear arsenals. That provides guarantees of security for Belarus, but it's destabilizing. It's very destabilizing. Nuclear weapons are not the solution. They're the problem. But the problem is the behavior of the United States have now made them the solution. Look, the Russians are only doing what NATO did all along with Turkey, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, Germany. Nobody talks about the French and the British nuclear capability outside of NATO because they are independent. So the whole thing's changed. The nuclear non-proliferation treaty is out the window, along with everything else. Look at the Russians. I'm not blaming the Russians. Oreshnik. It's real now. It's not just a theory. It's real. It's being deployed. Belarus is getting it. It's a dual-use capable system. That's different. The SS-20 we knew was nuclear. With the Oreshnik, it can be nuclear and it can be conventional. How the hell do you deal with that from a arms control standpoint? And it's not the only one. Dmitry Medvedev hinted what I've been saying all along. There's going to be another family, or at least one, probably two more intermediate range missiles being deployed that will give Russia all the capacity it needs to deal with the threat that's emerging from the United States and NATO in terms of Dark Eagle and things of that nature. But, to bring Belarus into the nuclear club the way that they have. But it's Ukraine and Russia that have to sign this treaty, not the United States, and not Europe, because you can't trust Europe either. All the Russians need is for Ukraine to say, we will never join NATO, and commit to that in a binding treaty. They don't need NATO to say, we'll never invite Ukraine, because that can change. And a president's word, if it's not backed up by a treaty, can be altered the next president that comes in. I gave my promise not to do this. I'm not you. I'm now the president, so I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Even though the former president said he wasn't going to do X, Y, and Z, I am, because I'm the president. And there's nothing to stop me. No binding treaty obligations. And if there were, we'd simply go to Congress and say, we're pulling out of the treaty. Yeah, the state of play of domestic American politics is such that it's created foreign policy and national security paralysis, because we're dealing with a president that's only going to be around for 3 more years. And everything he's doing is reversible under executive order. The same way he reversed Biden, he'll get reversed. And then we just find ourselves being whiplashed all over the place. The president has surrounded himself with the worst advisors possible. Marco Rubio is horrible. Pete Hegseth is just ignorant as the day is long. There is no national security advisor anymore. Marco Rubio is dual hatting on this. What kind of idiot goes out there and badmouths President Putin at the very moment when the United States needs to encourage dialogue with President Putin? Keith Kellogg is just in Banderas law land. The only trusted person that he has out there is Steve Witkoff. And Witkoff's job isn't to actually negotiate. His job is to be a messenger, to take President Trump's message, deliver it, and receive the message from Putin. I trust Witkoff in this capacity, and we'll see. We also have to remember that Witkoff was the guy that was supposedly negotiating with the Iranians at the last minute before Israel carried out their surprise attack. So that's another problem the Russians have and I would have said that if, again, this is why I'll never be the president of anything, but I would have told Witkoff, you're here, but how do I know that Trump just moved 2 Ohio-class submarines closer to Russian shores? How do I know you're not here just to soften us up for the surprise attack? We can't trust you anymore. We don't trust you. We don't believe a word you say anymore. Are you sincere? I don't know. Maybe you're sincere, but is your president sincere? These are things that have to be brought back to President Trump, and he has to be told, you have to change the way you do business, because right now the way you do business is disgraceful. It discredits the United States, and it puts us in a position where when we need diplomacy the most, we can't do it, because who's going to trust us? Nobody should ever trust us again. Not him, not this president. Hey, Europe, you already bought something from us? Give it to Ukrainians and then buy the replacement from us. So you're paying for the same thing twice. That's what it is. That's a scam. None of it exists. So it's a made up number, fake. But that's what Donald Trump does. He lies about everything, just made up numbers. So right now you have the Europeans just going out there and just making stuff up. But it's not real. It doesn't change anything. Ukraine's screwed 6 ways from Sunday. You can sit here, people just stop believing anything that comes out of Europe. Stop. It's all a lie. They even, this whole, what do they call it? Pearl, P-E-R-L or P-U-R-L or something. I don't know, this new Department of Defense thing. Basically, it's the scam of scam of scams. What can Europe do? Nothing. You saw Ursula von der Leyen when she met with him. So intimidated, she had to lie. She was so intimidated by the need to be seen as making a deal that she lied about $600 billion. There's no $600 billion. Donald Trump believed the lie. Apparently, he's running around talking about how I have $600 billion. No strings. I can do whatever I want with it. I build a golf course. There's no $600 billion. She had to go out immediately and say, no, there's no $750 billion either of energy. No. 3 years, $250 billion each. No. Europe's not buying $250 billion worth of energy from the United States. Last year, Europe bought $76 billion worth of energy from the United States, and that sort of maxed out their capacity to handle it. The United States only produced $310 billion worth of exportable energy last year, and that was going to everywhere but Europe. And now you're saying the United States is going to drop all those contracts, all the contracts in Asia and elsewhere, to divert it over to Europe. They can't handle it. Even if the United States was able to flow all the liquid natural gas into Europe, there's no place to receive it. That's it. And the Europeans went, oh yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Europe's got nothing. There's got, in order for Europe to have something, they have to have leverage over us. They have to be able to pick up the phone and say, we need you to do something right now, Uncle Sam. That's not how this works. Daddy talks, the little babies listen. That's it. That's the relationship. Daddy, baby, daddy, baby. And I hate to say that, except Mark Rutte thinks that Donald Trump is NATO's daddy. Europe's got nothing. Nothing. It's embarrassing. You saw the humiliation of Keir Starmer and his wife coming to the castle, going to the king, the American king. This is just stupidity in the extreme. The fact that Donald Trump, like the idiot he is, went ahead and threw a couple more B-61-12s into England, it's not a game changer. It doesn't alter the balance of power. Schnick alters the balance of power in a big way. And now we don't have a treaty vehicle to limit it. And the New START treaty expires on February 4th of next year. And when that's gone, we don't have a treaty vehicle to limit it. We'll jump from 1,550 deployed warheads to over 4,000 to 5,000 almost overnight. The United States already has the plan. We've bragged about it. This shows how we negotiate in bad faith with the New START. We put all these warheads into storage by basically dropping the Minuteman III from 3 warheads to 1 warhead. But just months ago, they did a Minuteman test where they put 3 warheads back on a Minuteman and test launched it to prove that they can do it. So overnight, the Minuteman will go from 1 to 3 warheads, 450 of them. There's 900 more warheads out there. The Trident will go from whatever their classified low number is to whatever their classified high number is overnight. Boom. Now we're talking a couple thousand more. We'll go to 4,000 or 5,000 warheads, and then we'll just start building new systems and without any constraints. And next thing you know, we'll be up to 20 to 30,000 warheads deployed. And the Russians will do the same. We're right back to the height of the Cold War. We're reversing everything. So these are the things that bother me. A couple more B-61s. It shouldn't have happened. I agree with you. It shouldn't have happened. It was stupid, but that's not what I lose sleep over at night. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not going to lose sleep over that. What I lose sleep over is the movement of the Ohio-class submarines. That's problematic. What I lose sleep over is the continued desire on the part of the United States to deploy Dark Eagle to Europe. That's a hypersonic missile. But having a couple more B-61-12s stationed in England as opposed to stationed in the Netherlands, stationed in Italy, stationed in Belgium, stationed in Turkey, they're there already. I'm not happy about that. I lose sleep over the fact that the Russians have walked away from the INF self-imposed moratorium on deploying INF systems, and now the Oreshnik is in serial production and being deployed. I don't think you're old enough to remember the SS-20 crisis of the 1970s when the Soviets brought the SS-20 out. It changed everything. And now we're going to deploy Dark Eagle, and we're right back to where we were in 1985, 1986. Then we had Pershing IIs ready to strike Moscow in 7 to 12 minutes of launch. The Soviets had the SS-20s. We're going to blanket all of Europe, kill everything. Today, in a year, we're going to have the Dark Eagle that, again, can hit Moscow within minutes of launch. And the Russians have Oreshnik, which can take out everything in Europe. NATO went from saying, maybe we can do it, to saying, we're dead. The moment this happens, we all die because of this system that just overwhelms everything. And it led to a crisis where we deployed Pershing IIs and ground-launched cruise missiles to Europe and put us on the cusp of this situation spinning out of control, killing everybody, which is why we signed the INF treaty. We're in a similar situation today because now the Oreshnik and that genie's not going back in the bottle. Wow, you think we would have learned, but we didn't. First of all, I think one of the reasons why J.D. Vance is laying low right now is because of the Epstein controversy. And he doesn't want, and I don't think Trump wants it to spill over on him. And so you keep the vice president out of these things. Although I guess there's a meeting right now with J.D. Vance about releasing the transcripts or the recordings of the most recent meeting between the federal deputy attorney general of the United States and Ghislaine Maxwell. So who knows? But yeah, J.D. Vance was always going to fight an uphill battle trying to become relevant under Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a narcissist. He's the only one that counts. Donald Trump doesn't share power. Donald Trump doesn't delegate. And Vance will be given an opportunity here, an opportunity there to shine. But look at Vance went to Munich and spoke to the Munich Security Council, and you have people Security Conference, and you have people saying that, what a speech. That's one of the greatest speeches made in that conference since Vladimir Putin took down the House in 2007. Normally, a president would say, my vice president went out there and kicked ass, and I'm very good. Trump's like, you're not allowed to shine brighter than this star. So we're going to bring you back here and we're going to snuff out the light. You don't get to go out and play anymore. And that's one of J.D. Vance's problems, is that he is a tool, but the president doesn't want to give the tool credit for anything. The only good news from the Trump perspective is that the Democrats are so god awful that they, even in an environment where they should be thriving and gaining votes and having their voice heard, they're still losing popularity because they're just that bad. They're so bad that they're losing popularity at a greater rate than Donald Trump, who's very bad. Donald Trump is not a man of character. He's not a man of courage. So he's going to take the path of least resistance. And that's the mastery of AIPAC and the whole pro-Israeli lobby, is that they have made life easier for those who support the cause of Israel. And they make life harder for those who go against it. And Donald Trump is a man that believes in taking the easy path. Look at tariffs. There's no master stroke here. He's just throwing out random numbers and then changing them and going on. Not because if he truly believed in something, he could articulate the stance he believed in. He could go out there, defend it. He could withstand the opposition. But he just tells lies. I'm gonna generate enough tariff-based income to make sure that Americans who earn less than $200,000 a year don't ever have to pay income tax again. And everybody goes, really? Oh, that's it. Get back to that. Don't pay taxes again. Not anything about Israel, Gaza, and all that. We don't have to pay taxes again. This is the code that Donald Trump has broken, as he plays to the lowest common denominator, and he can shift as the days on because the political memory of these people is zero. He just has to keep saying the right words. He'll refine his message, his lies. That's where we're at. It's not that the Israeli lobby controls Donald Trump. I don't believe they do. I believe that Donald Trump is such a weak man that he takes the path of least resistance, and the Israeli lobby provides the path of least resistance. This is the President of the United States committing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of American taxpayer money to continue to sustain a conflict that's already been lost, pretending that he cares about human lives, but all he's doing is guaranteeing that tens of thousands of Ukrainians are going to die in a war that could be stopped right now if the president made it stop. I hope that's the message that Steve Witkoff got from Vladimir Putin, is that this war can be stopped right now. And those numbers are Ukrainian numbers. This is the fantasy world that Ukrainian extremists who populate social media live in. And this means that the president is dealing with people who scrape social media accounts to pull together fantasy numbers and then brief the president of the United States. This is disturbing. I think we can assume that he knows nothing about what's going on in the case of Ukraine. Just the other day, he gave voice to just outlandish assessments that the Russians suffered 20,000 dead in a month. This last month, the Ukraine's only suffered 8,000 dead since January. If those are figures that he's quoting as the president of the United States, then either he is completely failing to comprehend what people are telling him, or people are just spoon feeding him garbage. You've spoken to Ray McGovern on several occasions. He used to be the man who briefed it was the CIA briefer for the presidential daily brief. I was never a briefer. I know that I have been the subject of several presidential daily briefings, and I know what goes into it. The level of scrutiny that information gets before it's included in something that's briefed before the president of the United States, considered to be the most powerful person in the world, who should only have access to the most accurate, verified, fact-based information, carefully assessed information in the world, was amazing. The CIA bent over backwards to make sure that if it got into the PDB, it was good, because you don't get second chances at that level. This is the president of the United States. This president's being fed garbage. There's no PDB. That even when they talk about the PDB, they've turned it into something like a Fox News format. So it's not, originally it's about entertaining the president. This is crap. I know Tulsi Gabbard, she's responsible for the PDB. She has a huge responsibility and overwhelming task. This president doesn't want to be briefed. How can you be briefed if you believe you know everything? This is a man who, I'm the smartest in the world about this. I know more about this than anybody. He knows nothing about anything, and he just proved it. If you really care about human life, we can stop this war. Vladimir Putin made a presentation. He said, look, Ukraine just withdraw from our territory, Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Lugansk, and you'll never be part of NATO. If you say that, we'll do a ceasefire right now. Right now, we'll have a ceasefire. And then we'll talk. It's not going to be over at that point in time. It's just a ceasefire. But then they begin conflict termination discussions without anybody dying. That's what the president of the United States claims he wants. Hopefully, Putin turned to Witkoff and said, let me make it as clear as possible. We're advancing, and we will continue to advance until we've taken back all our territory. That's not Ukrainian territory. Sorry, it never will be again. It's Mother Russia. And this is the trajectory we're on. This will happen. It's inevitable. You can't stop it. Now, if you can make the Ukrainians understand that this is going to happen, that you can't stop it, and the only thing that's going to happen is that Ukraine's going to lose another couple 100,000 dead, maybe the best thing to do is just get them the hell out of there and tell them that they'll never be part of NATO. And then we begin talking at that point in time. And at that point in time, nobody's dying. The president's achieved what he claims to achieve. I hope that's what Putin told Witkoff. And I hope Witkoff comes back and tells Trump exactly that. And I hope that Trump never listens to Steve Kellogg again, because I think that's where a lot of these fanciful numbers are coming from. And I hope that Pete Hegseth takes a lead from Trump and tells people like Christopher Donahue to shut up about Kaliningrad and maybe start telling Whitaker, the ambassador to NATO, to tone it down. If you ever call Putin, I forget what he called you, just insulting words. If you ever do that again while I'm trying to have a negotiation to bring it into a conflict, I'll fire you, arrest you, and put you in jail for the rest of your life. What kind of idiot does it take? This man's a former prosecutor. He's supposed to have a couple brain cells up there.